Hi, I'm Alexander, 24, retail worker, professional scapegoat, and apparently the invisible son in my own family. You ever grow up knowing, not guessing, but knowing, that you were the spare tire in your parents' lives? Yeah, that was me. My parents, Margarita and Jaime, had two sons. My brother, Esteban, golden child, center of their universe, walking miracle, and me, the background character in my own home. From the moment we could both walk, everything good had his name on it. The best toys, the best clothes, the hugs, the praise. I was lucky if I got a good job when I brought home a medal. Meanwhile, if Esteban managed to color inside the lines, they acted like he just painted the Sistine Chapel. By the time I finished high school, I already knew where I stood in the family ranking, somewhere below the dog and just above the furniture. My parents told me there wasn't enough money for me to go to college. We can't afford everything, Alexander, my mother said. Esteban has more potential, right? Potential, so I started working in a shopping mall, folding shirts, pretending to care about discounts, and forcing a smile for customers who thought retail meant punching bag. The pay was garbage, but it was mine. Every shift was one step further away from their approval, and strangely, that gave me peace. Meanwhile, my brother did absolutely nothing. No job, no school, no effort. But somehow, he always had the newest sneakers, designer jackets, and enough cash to go out every weekend. My parents said he was finding his path. Sure, his path apparently led straight to the couch and the fridge. The only reason our family wasn't living in the dark was because of one person, my grandfather, Antonio. He lived abroad and sent money every month. Enough for rent, bills, food, everything. My parents handled it, of course, because it's easier that way. I never saw a single cent, but I didn't care. I didn't want their money. I wanted respect. Silly me. When I was a kid, I used to spend summers with Grandpa Antonio fishing, fixing things in his workshop, laughing. He always said, "Alexander, you've got something special. Don't let anyone make you feel small." He was the only one who saw me. After he moved away, our talks became phone calls. But still, every time I heard his voice, it felt like home. Then came my 23rd birthday. I didn't expect anything, but when I got home from work, there it was, a cake on the table. Not fancy, just one of those cheap supermarket ones. My parents and Esteban sang happy birthday like they were being forced at gunpoint. My mom said, "This is from your grandfather." I remember thinking, weird, but okay. Maybe Grandpa wanted them to do something nice for me. So, I ate my slice of frosting and loneliness, and went to bed early. Just another birthday, I thought. Just another year invisible. But I had no idea that stupid, cheap cake was only the start of something huge. And 1 year later, that cake would explode my entire family apart. The months after that sad little celebration were strange. My parents, who used to complain about every bill, suddenly started spending like they'd hit the lottery. My mom came home one day with new handbags, real designer, not those knockoffs she used to whisper were just as good. My dad started wearing expensive watches, the kind that screamed midlife crisis with money. And Esteban, well, he became unbearable. New sneakers every week, nights out at places I couldn't even afford to walk past, and his favorite new hobby, reminding me how low class I was. Still folding shirts, Alex. He'd laugh. "You should aim higher, aim higher." Coming from the guy whose only cardio was lifting a game controller. One night, I overheard my mom on the phone talking about a family vacation, just us, a little getaway, just us. When I asked about it, my father smirked. "There's no room, Alexander. Besides, you have to work, don't you?" They left the next morning. A week at a beach resort, posting pictures online like they were royalty. I stayed home alone, feeding the cat, working double shifts, and pretending I didn't care. But I did. Of course I did. Where were they getting the money? Grandpa Antonio always sent funds for the basics, rent, bills, maybe a little extra for emergencies. But this was way beyond that. Trips, clothes, gadgets. It didn't add up. I told myself maybe Grandpa had sent more to help. Maybe they were saving for something and decided to splurge a little. I didn't want to believe they'd lie. Not about him. A year passed. Nothing changed for me. Same job, same mocking, same house where I was invisible. When my 24th birthday came around, I didn't even expect a cake this time. I figured they'd completely forgotten. Then, out of nowhere, my phone rang. It was him. "Alexander, my boy. How are you?" Grandpa's voice boomed through the line, warm and familiar. "I'm coming to visit you today. For your birthday. We'll have dinner, all of us together, your parents, Esteban, the whole family." My heart nearly stopped. 3 years since I'd seen him, and now he was flying in for me. For once, I was genuinely excited. When he arrived that evening, it was like sunlight had walked through the door. He hugged me so tightly it almost erased every cold word my parents had ever said. But the moment I looked at my parents' faces, I felt its tension. My mom's fake smile, my dad avoiding eye contact, even Esteban sulking like someone stole his spotlight. Still, we all went to the fancy restaurant Grandpa had chosen, the kind with napkins folded like swans and waiters who call you sir. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. Grandpa asked me about work, about my plans, about what I wanted from life. No one had ever asked me that before. My parents sat stiff, throwing in the occasional passive-aggressive jab. "Still at the mall, huh?" Esteban snickered. "Such a shame, so much potential wasted," my mother sighed. I tried to ignore them. I didn't want to ruin the night. Then, as we were finishing dessert, Grandpa smiled at me and asked the question that would tear everything apart. "So, Alexander, did you like the car I sent you last year?" For a second, I thought I misheard him. "The car," I said. "What car?" He frowned. "The car I sent you for your birthday." My parents froze. My mom's hand stopped midair, her fork trembling. My dad's face went completely white. "The only thing I got was a cake," I said, slowly. "You sent that, right?" Grandpa blinked. "A cake? Alexander, I never sent you a cake." That's when the air shifted. You could feel the panic ripple across the table. My mom tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked. "Oh, that must be a mix-up." Antonio, Grandpa's smile disappeared. His eyes hardened. "Margarita," he said, voice low and dangerous. "What cake?" Then he looked at me again. "Alexander, didn't you get the sports car I bought for you last year?" And just like that, my entire life of quiet tolerance cracked open. The next morning, my phone had 37 missed calls and 12 voice notes, all from my mother. Her last message was just 3 words, "Daniel, call me." I stared at the screen, still half asleep, and thought nope, not yet. Instead, I wandered down to the beach cafe, grabbed a coffee, and watched a kid trying to build a sandcastle while his dad kept helping by destroying it. Somehow, that felt symbolic. But when I finally opened Instagram, my entire feed was wedding chaos. A shaky video showed my sister's groom Ryan standing at the altar, sweating like he'd sprinted there. The officiant was flipping through papers nervously. Then the camera tilted to Emily, my sister, alone, mascara streaked, whispering something to my aunt before running off camera. The caption read, "Runaway groom, oh my god." I scrolled down. Another post. Ryan was caught the night before, in the hotel bar, with one of Emily's bridesmaids. Someone had leaked photos. The internet was having a field day. I dropped my coffee, literally. It splashed over my bare feet and the sand. And that's when my phone buzzed again, Mom calling, for the 38th time. This time, I answered. She didn't even say hello. Just, "Daniel, your sister's devastated. Please come home. We need you." And I actually laughed. Out loud. "Oh, now I'm family again." There was silence. Then Mom's voice, quieter. "I know we hurt you, but Emily needs you more than ever." I looked out at the ocean, sun blazing on the water, and for the first time in years, I didn't know whether to feel vindicated or heartbroken. "Fine," I said. "I'll think about it." Then I hung up. And that's when I saw a new text, this time from Emily herself. "Danny, please don't hate me. I need to tell you something about Ryan. Something I found out too late." I didn't sleep that night. My mind raced through every memory of Emily and Ryan. The sleepovers, when we were kids, the secrets we shared, the stupid teenage dares. And now, all of that was crashing down into chaos. The next morning, I booked the earliest flight home. I wasn't going to tiptoe around anyone's feelings. I was done with tiptoeing. When I arrived, the house was a war zone of emotion. Mom was pacing like a caged tiger. Dad was half sitting on the couch staring blankly, and Esteban, well, he was nowhere to be seen. Emily ran up the stairs to meet me, tears streaming down her face, mascara running in chaotic lines. like someone had painted a tragic portrait. I didn't know, she sobbed. I didn't know he'd. I didn't know. I put my hands on her shoulders. Calm down, Emily. Breathe. What happened? She gasped for air. Ryan. He wasn't planning to marry me. He was never serious. He was seeing her the whole time. I found out last night, just before the ceremony. I didn't know what to do. I felt a strange mixture of anger, disbelief, and a little satisfaction. Not at her pain. No, I'm not a monster, but at the universe serving some cold karma. Mom and Dad tried to intervene, spewing their rehearsed apologies and explanations, but I waved them off. Not now. This isn't about you. It's about Emily. Then Emily said something that made my stomach twist. I thought, maybe you knew. You always know everything, Daniel. You always see the truth. I shook my head. No, Emily, I'm as surprised as you are. She looked at me with wide, desperate eyes. I need your help. I can't face the wedding, the guests, the embarrassment. I can't do it alone, and that was it. For the first time in years, she needed me. Not as the invisible brother, not as the joke of the family, but as the one person who actually cared. We spent the next hours calling vendors, cancelling services, and sending frantic texts. Emily's voice shook, but there was determination underneath. I realized something. All the years I had been overlooked, all the sneers and dismissals, had somehow prepared me for this moment. I was calm, focused, and effective, everything my parents were not. By the evening, the wedding was officially off. Guests were notified, the hall cancelled, and Emily finally sat down with a long sigh. I can't believe how much worse it could have been if you weren't here. I smiled faintly. You're welcome. And then my mother tried one last desperate move. Daniel, maybe now you understand the importance of family. Maybe you'll forgive us. I looked at her, really looked. The years of favoritism, lies, and betrayal flashed through my mind. The cake that wasn't from Grandpa Antonio, the car that disappeared, the vacations without me. No, Mom, I said coldly, I understand nothing you've done makes you worthy of my forgiveness. I've had enough. Mom went pale. Dad didn't even try his stabbing. He finally appeared in the doorway, looking small and scared. Even he knew this was bigger than him, and in that moment, I realized something fundamental. For the first time in my life, I wasn't powerless. The next few days were surreal. Emily stayed with me at my apartment. Well, my apartment, the one I'd scraped together on my own while my parents and brother played house with privilege. We cooked together, binge-watched old shows, and for the first time, I felt like my efforts actually mattered to someone. A week later, my parents and Esteban were officially evicted. The house they'd flaunted on social media was gone. No luxury trips, no designer sneakers, no smug superiority. Just reality, cold, unyielding, and finally impartial. I heard about it from Grandpa Antonio, who chuckled over the phone. They're learning the hard way, Alexander. Sometimes life teaches lessons money and power can't buy. Meanwhile, I was thriving. My transfer came through. A new city, a new office, a brand new apartment, and yes, a garage with more sports cars than I had ever dreamed possible. Not the stolen one from before, but one I chose myself. A bright red, slick, roaring symbol that for once, I** was in control. At work, I flourished. Promotions came quickly because I was capable, dedicated, and ready to prove myself, not to them, not to anyone, but to myself. For the first time, I understood that my value wasn't determined by my parents' whims or my brother's shadow, and the best part, Grandpa Antonio. He became more than a mentor, he became a partner in life. We traveled together, built projects in his workshop, laughed over stupid jokes, and sometimes, late at night, he'd lean back in his chair and say, Alexander, you see, you were always the one meant to rise. As for my parents and Esteban, they called sometimes, trying to manipulate, plead, or guilt trip. I didn't answer, and why would I? I had spent a lifetime giving to people who never saw me. Now, I only gave to those who valued me, freedom, the respect, the opportunities. They weren't just gifts. They were vindication. Every insult, every ignored birthday, every mocking word had led me here, to a life I earned, a life I deserved, and a life where I was finally the center of my own story. I stood in my apartment one evening, looking out over the city lights, my red car gleaming in the parking lot below. For the first time, I felt complete asterisk, not because I had wealth or status, but because I had myself and someone who truly believed in me. For the first time in my life, Alexander was enough, and that was everything. Meanwhile, the fallout from the cancelled wedding was chaotic. The family gossip spread like wildfire, aunts and uncles called, friends texted, and the local rumour mill worked overtime. But Emily didn't care, she had me, and that was enough. And then the messages started coming from my parents. At first, it was the usual, pleading, whining, "We need you, Daniel, you're our son." But now, there was an edge of desperation I'd never heard before. The money was gone, the bills weren't paid, and even Esteban had to get a job for the first time in his life. One morning, I got a call from my grandfather, Antonio. His voice was calm, measured, but you could hear the simmering anger underneath. "Alexander," he said, always calling me by my real name now, the one my parents ignored. "I hear things didn't go well at home." I laughed, a little bitterly. "You could say that. You've done the right thing," he said. "Finally, they see the consequences of their actions. And you need to focus on yourself now. Don't let them drag you back into their chaos." I nodded, feeling a strange mixture of pride and relief. Grandpa Antonio had been the one constant, the one person who saw me, believed in me, and wanted me to succeed. And now, finally, the rest of my family was seeing the truth. A week later, I got the first real email from my parents since the wedding disaster. Subject line, "Help, please." I opened it. They were desperate. Their new place was falling apart. Esteban couldn't handle a job, and they had no one to bail them out. The email was full of excuses, pleading, and guilt-tripping lines that used to make me crumble. But this time, I didn't even flinch. I didn't reply, I didn't call, I didn't even think about them. Instead, I called Grandpa Antonio and told him I had a plan. A job transfer was possible for me in another city where I could start fresh, focus on my career, and maybe even buy a house of my own one day. He approved immediately, and as I hung up the phone, I felt something I'd never felt before: free. Free from their favoritism, free from their manipulation, free from the invisible chains they had wrapped around me my entire life. The last text I saw from Esteban: "Danny, please. We're sorry. Don't abandon us." I smiled to myself. Abandon. Funny, that word used to feel like betrayal when they treated me like I didn't exist. Now it felt like liberation.